the Martial Arts Movie Podcast.
I threw that shit before I walked in the room.
Featuring drunken Thai boxer, Will.
Too bad you will die.
The also drunken wrestler, Mark.
I said I don't want trouble.
And drunken karate master, Zero.
You've lost your balls.
And now,
I know Kung Fu. You know, baby.
Fists of Fail. Stop laughing, we're recording.
I can't.
Guys, hey guys, you are listening to the Fist of Fail podcast. This is Will. I'm here with Zero and Mark again.
Hello.
Hey, and we tried to record like 3 times already, but we failed every time, so hopefully this one works.
So third time's a charm, right?
Right. But it's okay, because none of this is real, because we are all living in the Matrix. No, fuck that. No, that's a terrible segue. But we are talking about the Matrix today for episode 4, and the reason why we're doing that is because as you listeners are listening to this right now, it is the 20th anniversary of the movie.
Yay.
Hey, Will.
Yay.
That's exciting and all, but is this a Kung Fu movie?
Yes, of course it is. Okay, why else do you think we're doing this? Okay, of course it's a kung fu movie. It's
a hybrid. It's a sci-fi action kung fu.
Right. It's also any movie with Yuen Woo-ping, it counts in my book.
Now, is this the first time an American production has Yuen Woo-ping in it?
I don't think so. I think he's been cast before, if I'm not mistaken. But that's
I have no idea.
I don't know.
But I think this is the one that made people realize, like, okay, if you want good martial arts action, he's the guy to get to choreograph your movie.
Yeah, of course. He's I mean, if you guys don't know who he is, shame on you. But he's the person that you should think about when you think traditional Chinese kung fu choreography. If you think about all the movies out there that you recognize, or you think, wow, this is fantastic fighting, it's probably Yuen Woo-ping somewhere, one way or another. Especially more modern movies, like the past decade or 3.
Not so much now. I feel like he's definitely slowing down a little bit. He's done a lot more. He's done a lot more directing too.
Oh yeah, that's true. I mean,
not just action choreographer.
It's not the mid 2000s anymore. It's not because anything.
Well, if this is a 20-year anniversary of a 1999 movie,
that's true.
So.
And Mark actually has the VHS of the movie on him.
So exciting.
Why don't you read the box for us?
Smart filmmaking. Get strapped in for a brain-popping trip.
Is that LSD? That sounds like something LSD would do.
Richard Corliss from Time magazine.
Oh, okay.
No. Anyway, so it says, perception. Our date in, date out world is real.
What? Is this really on the back of the box?
Yes.
Our day in, comma, day out world is real.
Okay. Is that English?
Yeah. Apparently. Reality. That world is a hoax, an elaborate deception spun by all-powerful machines of artificial intelligence that control us. Whoa.
Wait, you gotta be kidding me. It does not say "whoa" on the back of the box.
Yeah, it does.
No fucking way.
You see it?
Maybe Keanu Reeves wrote this.
What? No, you serious?
I'm serious.
Artificial intelligence.
And it also tells you the whole movie.
Why even watch the movie?
Mind warp stunts, techno slamming visuals, mega kick action. Keanu Reeves.
Mega kick.
Mega kick? What?
Yeah.
Isn't that a Pokemon move?
Keanu Reeves and Lawrence Fishburne lead the fight to free humankind in The Matrix. The CNC Again cyber thriller written and directed by the Wachowski brothers. Parentheses bound. This is so bad.
I was gonna say, I always thought his name was Lawrence Fishburne.
He's Jewish.
No, I was thinking like I was thinking it was like a berg of fish. Fishburne.
Yes, Lawrence Fishburne is in the movie. He plays Morpheus. Man, it's so hard to it's so weird to actually explain the plot of The Matrix because everyone's seen it. It's everyone's seen it.
There are children who have not yet watched this, like teenagers, who are like, "What's The Matrix?"
Oh, jeez.
Well, that's
Because
just,
it- yeah,
that's just
because
because it's a newer generation.
Oh, that's what I'm
That's
saying.
true.
There's
Yeah.
going to be people who have no idea
Always.
what the hell this is.
But as far as like within like 10 years of either direction of us, like everybody 90% of people should have seen that movie.
Right, yeah.
And especially since we had so many sequels to enforce that.
And it's just been ripped off so
Oh,
much.
yeah. This
Parodied, ripped off, borrowed from.
Man, the parodies.
Special effects wise, too.
If you guys even saw the 90s, or if you didn't because you're a millennial,
7?
you're not even a millennial, whatever past millennial is, you guys...
Zed.
Zed? Really?
It's
Geez.
Generation Z, I believe.
Ugh. If you guys don't remember that, there was a period of time where every movie was parodying this in terms of the action. Do you remember that?
Oh, God,
Do you remember
yeah.
that? It was sickening.
Every teen comedy had some sort of slow motion effect of. Okay, basically in any 90s movie, if you were dodging something, they most likely had fake bullet time because they couldn't afford the camera effect to do it.
I immediately think of Scary Movie.
Yeah,
When,
I was gonna say
Scary
like they
Movie
ripped
did
that
it.
off.
Well, that was a parody
Well,
movie,
yeah,
so
yeah.
I'll give it to them there. I remember Deuce Bigelow, Male Gigolo.
Oh, yeah.
had a
man.
Matrix FoF scene where he's just kind of going back and dodging something. But yeah, basically any movie in the early 2000s where somebody was dodging some sort of item, it went into fake bullets.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly, Family Guy did a bunch of references to that as well, and like
course.
all those shows. Yeah,
Everything had parodied this movie. A lot of, not only parody, not in
Yeah.
terms of the action, but a lot of other things have obviously borrowed from this movie in terms of style, in terms of action. And this is one of the few instances where I think that wire fu actually is effective in terms of the action choreography and making it believable.
Well, it works for the story.
Yeah,
Too,
yeah.
because they are literally bending reality.
yeah.
Right.
And so the
You
fact-
expect like it not to be believable in some situations.
Exactly, yeah.
Right. One little disclaimer for you guys listening: I don't think we're gonna be delving into the philosophy of this movie.
Oh,
Yeah,
let's
no,
not, please.
no, thank you.
Oh my God! For all those of you out there who are obsessed with this movie, who actually took a college course in this movie, I'm not even kidding. There are actual philosophy. Wow, there are actual philosophy.
Philosophy?
Philosophy.
Falafels?
We get it. There's a lot of little undertones in this movie, and there's so much to read into. We are not going to that deep into this movie. A lot of people, like in Broforce, there's a video game where you get to play as Mr. Anderbro, and a lot of people paint Neo as this badass, and I don't understand that. He's not really a badass character. In fact, you can say there's really no characters in the Matrix. They have no defining characteristics. They're kind of blank slates.
I think you mean more like he has no personality.
He has no personality, of course.
Yeah, he's a character. He's the one.
Yeah,
He's the Jesus figure.
Give me one characteristic of Neo.
Blank slate.
Well, okay. if you were to try to
Confused. Trench coat.
black, right? Wearing all. Oh, I mean, I can't. Well, you wore black. I see how that influenced you.
Neo is the audience surrogate.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't understand what's happening, and we as the audience are revealed the story through his eyes. So you're correct. Like, he doesn't have so much of a character, but I wouldn't say he's not memorable at all.
He's not.
I would also say that every character in the film is lacks personality just because they've technically been all kind of born anew. Because like the story behind it is, like everybody's in a vat and all of this, so like technically they don't have any personalities in that world. Like in the perception world, everybody has some kind of background, some kind of history, something. But when they realize they're in the Matrix and they're born just like Neo, they're basically babies. And like that's kind of how I see it.
I thought we weren't gonna get into the philosophy of this movie.
Yeah, no, but then like you mentioned that one point, and
Yeah.
I was just like, well, that's just kind of how I saw it.
Okay, no, it's true. I mean, there's certain elements that would explain why they're not characters, but they also don't have characters. None of the characters.
Or they just got lazy and they don't want to put that much effort into it. It could go either way.
It does add a little style to the movie. You know, yes, the characters they speak they're very stoic. They don't speak like normal humans do. I guess that's a symbolism that they're like kind of not 100% human. Because what does it mean to be human? What is free will?
When you've been controlled
Yeah.
by
Don't.
Like we came here for the action.
Yeah.
The characters are there to drive this, not overly complicated, but like it's a high concept movie.
Yeah.
We need to get them from beginning to end.
Mm-hmm. Right. And what were you saying before about the fact that it was high concept? It's like getting this greenlit was kind of difficult.
Well, with a freaking description like that on the back of the box, if that was your presentation to like a room of fucking board members or some shit, like I would be like, no.
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
So they came out with an art book called The Art of the Matrix, and because this is such a high concept script, the Wachowskis reached out to comic book artists, so real comic book illustrators, to visually storyboard the more complicated action scenes or the more complicated just any scene in the movie. And because, like you said, the box art, when you just read the description on the back, you're like, what? Why am I gonna get into this? So when they presented it to the studio, they had visuals. So because the story is so complicated, they're giving them scene breakdowns, and visually you're like, oh, okay, this is cool. Like they made sure that it was really stylized. It was very clear to see like what's going on without any verbal direction or written text. Mm-hmm. So they were able to get the greenlit, I guess, or maybe greenlit to the next section of production because of these basically comic book storyboards.
Mm-hmm. You think because they got greenlit, that's why they put so much green in the movie?
It's quite possible, yeah.
Yeah, the color correction in this movie, it's every single scene.
Which I kind of like. It just
of course, it gives
not
it a
only
lot
the
of style.
green,
Yeah,
but
it's got its look.
It's a sickly green, but of course, it echoes back to the beginning of the movie when you're
The
watching.
actual,
It's a lot
like,
of the green
yeah.
characters.
Yeah.
Green's a pervasive color in this movie, with the
well,
exception
green
of
and
the
black.
real world.
Well, the green and black, I guess they're just mimicking the digital, the computer world, the robots and all that shit.
Right, but like I said, with the exception of the actual real world, when they're in the Nebuchadnezzar, the spaceship that they're in, or the craft that they're in, that it's not like oversaturated with the green. It's just muted colors.
Mm-hmm. No, I really like the dark colors in this, and the clothing that they wear.
Right.
I'm just like, oh my god,
Yeah,
that's
a
awesome.
lot of movies have taken influence from this, but based off of their fashion style.
Mm-hmm.
Like everyone, like it became quiche.
It was very iconic in the fashion style.
Yeah,
Well, because
I said quiche. I meant to say chic. You guys want some quiche?
Right. Well, this kind of made popular the trench coat thing because he just, Neo just looks so cool with the guns and the trench coat, which I believe he actually took, which they took from John Woo movies.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, they were very
imagining,
influenced by John Woo and Chow Yun-Fat's character.
Hell yeah.
You can definitely see that in the later gunfights in the movie. There's a lot of like a lot of stylized gun action in it. It's a lot of flips and stuff.
Do you remember how many people bought sunglasses after that movie?
Do you know how many people still wear sunglasses indoors?
Yeah.
I attribute it to this movie. Oh, and the other disclaimer I want to bring up is we are not talking about the sequels. Okay,
Yeah, no, hell no.
We're never doing an episode on the sequels.
I'll agree to that.
That's too bad.
Well, I don't think so. Whereas The Matrix, we can argue pretty definitively that this is a martial arts movie. I can't say the same for the sequels.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I really can't.
It delves much more into the action CGI heavy.
Only thing we need to say that has been like kind of beaten down like a dead horse and by everyone else in the world is that the Matrix sequels doubled down on every other thing that the Matrix was popular for.
Right.
So like, hey, let's up the ante with the action, with the philosophy, with the stoicism and the nihilism. Let's just let's just take that and take it to the nth degree. And the sequels completely forgot what moderation is. It's just too much.
I mean, it's a sequel almost to a T in that they take everything that was good about the first one, and usually you're not supposed to, but they tend to overdo it.
Yeah,
and
they did overdid it,
and that's the problem. Yeah.
One thing I was telling Zero about before was, out of all those damn franchises out there right now, if they ever decide to make a franchise out of the Matrix, that's the one I would say I'm okay with.
Oh, like a remake, you mean?
Remake, reboot, a continuation of the Matrix.
It's got a pretty good world. It's probably
Exactly.
a pretty good universe, and they kind of did because they did the Animatrix. And
Right, but
they
when was that? The Matrix world building is so vast and so impressive. You wonder if there's like another universe inside this universe that there's a lot to delve into, and
Just unlimited bubble universes.
right, there's a lot to explore in the
Thought
Matrix.
we weren't talking about that shit, Will.
I know you want to.
No.
There's a lot to explore of the Matrix, and if you ever decide to make a franchise of it, I think that has a lot of potential.
Well, they did. They made a trilogy, and it had prequel side stories as well. They did it.
We can retcon those because those movies don't exist anymore.
They're going to do what they did with the Terminator. They're just going to go back to the first movie for the Matrix and then just start from scratch.
And then one director comes out, he's like, "Yeah, those movies don't exist."
Yeah.
Almost within the first 30 seconds, we have Carrie-Anne Moss's character, Trinity. She is running from the cops, or she beats down some officers, badassly. Is that a word? Badassly?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
They've located her to some abandoned apartment complex, and they send a whole bunch of men to subdue her. We're introduced to was it Agent Smith, and he tells the police officer like, "Oh, your men are already dead."
Yeah.
Something along those lines.
Yep. It's great because this is how you start a movie. This is how it gets your
attention.
The tension, the adrenaline pumping, and you're left wondering because none of these, all the questions that you have in your head right now is like, who is she? What is she doing? Oh, she's beating up cops. Is she a bad guy? You're thinking, when are these questions going to be answered? So you're engaged. It's a great way to start a movie, and you get to see Carrie-Anne Moss jump in the air and do this kick that has been parodied thousands of times.
Yeah. It's our first introduction to the bullet time effect as well.
Right, yeah.
Yes, it's immediately pretty much an action scene, but there is a moment of the quiet before the storm, so to speak. Okay, the cops are getting ready, they're going up, and then everything just stops before all the shit breaks out.
Yep.
And that works so well.
Yeah, it's
I don't
the right
like-
amounts.
Yeah, I don't like when you immediately go from like
0 to 100.
the title screen to, and then all of a sudden it's just like, oh shit, he's running through the fields of something, and there's like 40 guys behind him or something like that.
There's a right amount of tension building, and it sets you up perfectly for the movie to start off with. You already know that Trinity's an important character. You know that she's one of the main characters, and you want to see her get out of this unscathed. But she gets chased by one of the agents. The agents, you don't know who they are yet, but they're menacing characters. You
can kind of see that they have similar abilities to her, where it's non-human or non-normal.
Yeah.
She's leaping across buildings. He is following in pursuit equally to her. And then we're shown that the normal police officers aren't able to do what they're doing.
Right. So you immediately see that there's these humans, and then there's these superhumans. They all have these powers, and these people who can do superhuman things. Now that we've established that they can do these things, and it's in this world that it's possible. You buy it when you see the wire fu. You see these crazy things that can't obviously happen in real life, but you get it. You're like, okay, that can happen because it's not real. Or like these people have somehow cheated the system to make it real.
I wish in the chase scene, I wish all the other officers were just even more out of shape. I wish they would have hammered it home that they just can't do.
But they don't do comedy in this movie, okay? It'd be great if one of them was walking with a bag of donuts.
Oh my god! They all try to jump across the building and donuts just fall everywhere.
One of the cops just starts throwing donuts across the other building.
Just to add, in a deleted scene that was never shot, but they storyboarded it came out a little differently. The Wachowskis wanted this to be in kind of like in Chicago, which is where they're from. So the scene where Trinity's character, she jumps off the building and she jumps through the window down the stairs. There's a scene before that where they wanted to have them like jump on trains and run on top of like above ground trains, but obviously they couldn't do that in the budget, so it's completely out. She just jumps from building to window.
No, that's curious, because if they were to do that, would they have filmed it in Sydney as well? Because the whole movie is filmed in Sydney, Australia.
So what happened is they realized they don't have these trains in Sydney, and I think it would just not be in their
Are you telling me that they can't build trains? Like,
Yes.
non-CGI trains, real trains?
Yes,
Cardboard?
Your cardboard, yes. That's interesting. Well, I mean, would that have added much to this movie? I don't know.
It wasn't needed because the pacing of the scene is just it's nice. Like them jumping on top of trains and running from each other and shooting at each other. Sure, it would have been cool to see, but I think what we get was perfectly fine. As it is.
Right.
Later on, when she gets away from them and starts jumping from roof to roof, you have like an overhead shot where she's jumping, but then it's like in some parts of that shot things are sped up and other things are slowed down, so it shows the kind of different balance in
what do you call that again? It's not, well, obviously the technique itself is called bullet time, but it's that Zack Snyder speed ramping, you know, like it's like,
well, they're shooting at different frame rates.
Right, yeah, like it's I guess this was pre Zack Snyder when he was, you know, circle jerking himself with the slow down, speed up, slow down, speed up kind of effect. But it works to effect here because it's not overused.
Yeah.
You know, I feel like a lot of modern action movies now, they just overuse the hell out of that, because it's not the action itself that's interesting. It's the fact that the camera can, the action itself can speed up or slow down at any given time.
Well, it makes sense, and I think we mentioned this, like it makes sense for this movie because they're doing things that are not in reality.
Yeah.
So we can visually see these things and it looks off, but for a good reason.
Yeah, exactly. Bringing on Yuen Woo-ping was pivotal to making the action work for this movie, because it's not just the fact that they, you know, like had fight choreography. They brought in an expert to, like, one of the most prolific icons, and Yuen Woo-ping actually like catered each of their fighting styles, their choreography, to each the actors specifically. Carrie Ann Moss was more flexible, so she did certain kind of moves to cater to her style of fighting.
Yeah, she does your favorite move where you do like it's like a split kick and, and you're kicking the guy behind you, but in reality, like no one would really ever do
like
that.
you probably split your groin. You'd hurt yourself more than the opponent.
Right. You might kick yourself in the face.
Yeah. The amount of time and effort that all the actors had to go through to make the action believable and work on screen.
Hugo Weaving says like, oh, I thought we were going to do training for 3 to 4 weeks, and it turns out it was like 3 to 4 months.
Yeah.
So they really set out to make sure that the actors looked believable on screen, and I'm pretty sure almost all the time it's really them. Like they shot it in a way so that you're not seeing the back of the head, but like you're seeing them performing the moves, which is really impressive. Yeah.
Don't you guys miss it when you watch an action movie and you're like, hey, look, it's the actual actor doing the thing?
Yeah.
It's nice seeing that, and even though they're suspended on wires, it's still cool that they're actually putting the effort to do all that. Yuen Woo-ping actually said he was a little flabbergasted that these people were out of shape. So, but he made it work. You know, after 4 or 5 months of training, obviously anyone would get conditioned to do these action scenes.
Of course.
This is the movie that got Keanu Reeves into martial arts, I believe, right? Because obviously he's been in John Wick, and if you've seen John Wick, he's we're talking what?
I'm not
almost 20 years later.
I'm not sure about if it's how he got into martial arts, but it's definitely it propelled him more into it for sure.
Right. John Wick, like he obviously he learned a lot of martial arts or like a lot of conditioning, like for the movie, but I like to attribute this movie a lot to that because it probably was a gateway for him to
Well, he wasn't doing too many action movies actually. I believe a few of the movies that came out before
Speed.
this was like Speed.
When did The Lake House come out?
That was after this.
After, right.
But I think the year before this, he was in a movie called like A Walk in the Clouds. It was a romantic comedy. He was in Chain Reaction, which was
there a lot of
Yes. Oh my
which is
god,
like
that
a
movie.
which is like a sci-fi like PG-13.
That was
romp.
crazy.
So
Wait.
he wasn't doing anything like heavily action based.
Okay. So you're telling me he wasn't using karate in Bill and Ted: Excellent Adventure?
I don't believe so.
Excellent.
He was using guitar fu. Maybe.
Okay. I wonder if he's gonna use that in the sequel.
I hope
the one
so.
that's about to come out. There's a certain scene in the movie where Mr. Anderbro gets disconnected from the Matrix or the hookup, and he's brought back to life in the real world, or he comes to life in the real world, and he comes out of the pod. And Mark,
Yeah, I was immediately. I was like, "Oh, beautiful and adult birth," and then he bursts through, and I'm just like, "Oh shit, it's Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool and Wolverine Weapon X." It looks exactly like it because all he's missing is like the eyeshadow and the sewn mouth, which Keanu at
and
one
the
point
eye
doesn't
lasers.
have a mouth at one point either. So
Actually, that's
This in this scene, they actually wanted him to be like in a sack. Like in the storyboards, they wanted to be like they wanted it to him to be like in a birthing sack.
Right.
And it strips away as he's going down the tube, but they decided to just cut it a lot quicker.
You know, it's funny. Speaking of that pod, apparently during the building or the production of this, they had these testers to actually test out the pods, and it was so hard to breathe in there. Someone suffered from hypothermia.
nice.
Oh my god.
Yeah, exactly.
And
So that's
by nice, I mean not nice.
not
at
nice,
all.
not nice at all. Have you had hypothermia? That's not so nice.
No, definitely not. But it makes sense. I mean, who knows how? Like they probably didn't warm the liquid at all, and he was like freezing his ass off in there.
Right. It does look pretty cold.
Yeah, water. It doesn't like get cold or anything
I didn't
if you
even
leave
think
it
that
out.
was water. It looked like 20 pounds of like.
It's just gel.
It's
Like-
Nickelodeon slime before they add the green to it. Before they add the food coloring.
I was
to
gonna
it.
say Astroglide.
Ugh, that's disgusting.
that's how he slides down the tube so easily.
Just KY jelly.
Yeah, it's KY.
If you ever want to know if an action choreographer does what he's supposed to do, watch The Matrix. Watch this scene between Morpheus and the one, Neo. Because any good choreographer can make untrained, like non-martial artists look like badasses on screen. Of course, they had the conditioning, they had their training and everything, but this scene, it even though you can nitpick it and say, yeah, it looks a little floaty, it might not look completely seamless, you can see that they're hitting their marks, they're hitting their choreography. It looks believable. It's impressive because it's the actual actors doing their thing.
Yeah, there's only a few instances where you don't see their faces, but I'm pretty positive it's always them.
Yeah. There's a lot of high kicks there. You know, like doing high kicks is not easy, especially if you're not a flexible person to begin with. And we can't just assume that every one of these people can just do high kicks right off the bat. You know, like you have to condition for that, and they definitely prepare their bodies for this role. It's not like modern day action stars now, where Hollywood actors will get toned for their roles, but then they have stunt doubles doing all their stunts anyways. Like here, it's like they still look like normal looking dudes. They're not all chiseled and but they can obviously do the stunts that are required of them.
Yeah, and it's great because I guess the way they kind of hide some Hollywood action sequences is by like shooting like a little closer, so you can obscure the face of the actor, so you can put the stunt double in there.
Yeah.
In this, there are so many wide shots and long takes that there's no way, like they would have to digitally remove the face of the stunt double if they were to do this.
Yeah.
And at that time, that technology was not really available. So they made sure, Lawrence Fishburne and Keanu Reeves knew Kung Fu.
Yeah.
They did not download a jiu-jitsu program.
Do whatever they need to like get the mods that they need to make themselves superhuman. So you don't need to look chiseled, but you get granted these abilities.
Right, that's another layer you could put on it. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so like if they were chiseled, actually, I think it would strip it away from this movie.
I think it'd be fine either way. I think because of the superhero movies now, every male actor needs to have a superhero body because you're going to have that shirtless scene.
Yeah.
There's always
Right,
a shirtless scene in every Marvel movie just to show off, hey, look how dedicated this actor was. They stopped eating bread for 4 months.
You'll be watching Parks and Rec and you're like, why is Chris Pratt all of a sudden so chiseled?
Yeah.
Oh, I just stopped drinking beer.
Drinking beer, that was the best. Well, going back to this dojo fight. So in the original storyboards, they didn't go too full into detail because they knew. I think what happened was they knew they were going to get some sort of action director, action choreographer to do it. So they didn't like board the entire sequence. But there are a few instances where things changed, like when Neo backflips. He runs up the wall and he backflips. In the boards, he lands in front of Morpheus for some reason, and in the movie, he lands behind him. So just little things like that are different, but it stayed pretty much the same.
Yeah, we were watching the behind the scenes of this too. So the behind the scenes, a lot of the action blocking was done by Yuen Woo-ping's men. Trained martial artists, obviously, but they were the ones who were kind of stand-ins before the actual actors were doing the stunts themselves. Tiger Chen being one of them, actually, Keanu Reeves' teacher, and hey, Tiger Chen, call back to our last episode.
Triple
They're
threat.
great.
Triple threat. Yeah, it's cool to see that like they were doing those things, and I'm curious like if there were any deviations because I haven't gone frame by frame to watch if there were any differences, but it seems like watching the final product. They like it's amazing that we had these real world actors doing these stunts that real martial artists have been doing. I actually was curious to see if this was sped up in any ways, but it doesn't seem like it.
It didn't seem. I was looking for that too.
Yeah, I was like maybe they're going at half the speed. And,
Well, it was smart because it cuts where it needs to. Like you can see where some kicks were being thrown that probably didn't come across as well, so they cut to different angles just to get the better visual.
I read somewhere that they said that because Keanu Reeves had spine surgery. Is that what?
No,
No,
it's
no,
Hugo
neck.
Weaving.
Neck.
No, neck surgery.
Yeah.
Wait, that was Hugo Weaving, and
Had this-
Keanu Reeves had spine surgery.
No,
No,
neck.
the other way around.
Wait.
The other way around.
Yes.
Oh,
Keanu had the neck.
Yeah.
Keanu
So
had
if
the
you,
neck,
if
yeah.
you watch
Right.
behind the scenes
Right.
when he's doing some of the 4-month training, he's wearing a neck brace.
Oh,
And
yeah.
and it looks really funny actually. Before I found out he had that injury, I thought they were doing that maybe to like straighten his back or something to help with his posture. I was like, oh, that's neat.
that would explain why he's so stiff and like, he stands up straight.
Right.
Not stiff that way, but yeah.
He's just erect in every
If that was the case, he should be hunched over every time. Like, don't look at me. I am ashamed.
He messed up like his neck in the first week, and then from then on out, he's like, "I'm gonna keep my back so straight for the entire movie."
I read somewhere that they said that like Keanu Reeves had this operation, so he couldn't kick a lot in the film. And I'm watching this movie again, and I'm like, what are you talking about? He kicks a lot in this movie.
Well, I guess it depends when he actually got the injury, first and foremost, and
Right.
then and then also, I mean, regardless, after the recovery time, you just take it slow. I'm sure they probably did the hardcore scenes like towards the end of the
Sure.
film.
Yeah.
I mean,
They almost never film movies in general in sequence. Like they'll just film certain sequences. Maybe they started with the action scenes first,
and was it
Also,
Hugo? He had 6 weeks that he needed just to recuperate, and then not including like training again, because when you're done, 6 weeks of just walking on crutches, like your body starts to atrophy, so
Get
you
out
got to
of bed.
build yourself back up to your fighting
Right.
shape, and it's just like
Can you still imagine this movie being played by Will Smith? No, can you seriously imagine it?
well, modern day Will Smith, absolutely not.
Even back then, I don't think it would work.
I've said this to you before. Like, I do not need a sassy Neo,
Yeah.
a sassy, cocky Neo.
Right,
Like,
but
There was one point in his career where I could have been like, okay, maybe you could have played it, but
Right,
then
right.
Before that and after that, no way.
Well, can Will Smith play a stoic character? But I'm wondering if Will Smith has that range, and I don't think so.
But Keanu's like a stoic guy by default in his normal environment, like when he's not acting, from everything that I've heard. So
yeah, he comes across as like pretty humble,
Yeah.
pretty grounded.
Okay, that
And
makes
that's
sense. Carefree, yeah.
that's good for the audience surrogate.
Yeah.
Like we don't want to be in the eyes of some guy who's overtly cocky. Like you can't relate.
So that's why he's the genie, right?
Yes,
That's
that's
why
why
he's the genie. He's a big blue Smurf. This is mentioned a lot that Will Smith was initially pitched to play Neo, but one thing that people don't talk about is that Val Kilmer was considered for the role too, but
Of
not,
Neo?
Of Neo, yeah, was considered for the role.
Oh, I
but
didn't
guess
get
who
that.
was also
Was this before or after he got fat?
probably before?
Yeah.
This is
He-
probably
yeah.
Batman
before,
Forever.
Yeah, before Bang Bang.
Kiss Kiss Bang
Kiss,
Bang.
Kiss, Bang,
Yeah,
Bang,
yeah, that was a fun movie.
That was a fun movie. Guess what? Val Kilmer also applied for, or like he was also considered for
Oh no, wait, I think
Morpheus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what? Val Kilmer has that distinct voice.
Mhm.
I think him as Morpheus wouldn't be bad.
Right.
But I just can't imagine him doing the fight
I can't
scenes
imagine-
because I've never seen him do action like that before.
Besides Top Secret, he's fighting in the water.
I have not seen that.
that's good fights.
But like he seems to be this guy that popped up in so many films
Well,
that
he was-
he
he
could
was
have
hot
been
around
in,
that time.
and like
Everyone wanted Val
popular
Kilmer.
films, like super popular films. I'm like, how would that have ended up if they just started him? You know,
Well, it's a good thing he didn't play Batman. That would be a travesty if he played Batman.
He wasn't
he could-
Batman.
I know. Zero. Don't squash my joke.
So this is a short little action sequence.
Mm-hmm.
It's where Agent Smith and a bunch of police officers find out they're in this abandoned building. Fun fact: the set they reused this set from a movie called Dark City. I don't know if you guys ever saw that.
Nope.
Yeah.
It's like a
never seen it.
sci-fi-ish horror movie
Yep.
from the 90s, but they reused this whole set from there. And what happens is they're found out and they decide to hide behind the walls. In the storyboards, this plays out a little differently. So when the officers are looking for them, you actually see the wall bulging. They can't hold their form hiding behind there. And which is kind of funny because that makes sense, right? You know, like if you're hiding behind a wall and you're too big for it, the wall will actually bulge out. And they did that in the storyboard. But what they realized is like they didn't have the budget, or it was too much time to actually make the wall come out and do that with the physical set. So what they did was they used the I guess the asbestos or the dust, and they had Cypher sneeze. And that's how they discover they're in the wall. So it was a workaround, a nice little workaround.
You know, I'm glad that they made that concession. It's like the cops did a little bit of detective work to figure it out, versus just, hey, look, there's a fat dude in the wall.
Well, I don't think there was even detective work because he sneezes.
Well,
if you
yeah,
couldn't
okay,
tell,
fine.
like, there's a sneeze coming from the wall, my detective school.
Yo, there's something wrong with the radiator.
Well, to be fair, the cop had his ear right against the wall, so like, yeah, okay, he heard him just because. If he was 5 inches further away, maybe he wouldn't have heard him.
So, what happens is they try shooting up the wall, conveniently miss everybody. The Agent Smith takes over the body of the police officer, and then he begins to pull out Neo from the wall, which is pretty cool. Like I mean, I think the only real way to do this is with a practical set.
Right,
You know,
yeah.
like you see.
I mean, it definitely is practical.
Oh,
but,
of
I mean,
course,
like,
of course.
I'm sure it's cardboard. It's not
Right,
like Hugo Weaving busts his hands through tiles. It's like, oh, my fingers.
Well, it's great because it adds that real world effect. You know, all the debris, all the dust flying everywhere. It just
Right.
makes it seem that much more intensive.
Little known fact, that was real asbestos that those actors
Yeah.
were breathing in.
Oh God, yeah, they're all dead now.
If you breathe asbestos in the Matrix, do you breathe asbestos in the real world?
Something to ponder.
Do you want the asbestos pill or do you not?
It also prevents erectile dysfunction.
Neo, yeah. So Morpheus does the sacrificial lamb thing. He jumps on the grenade, figuratively and literally.
Well, you laughed at this, and I always laughed at this whenever I saw it. When Agent Smith first grabs Neo, Morpheus decides to sacrifice himself.
But he doesn't like burst through the wall. He does it before he bursts
Yes,
through the
he
wall,
does
which
this-
is hilarious.
He does
Yeah.
this like battle cry.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's exactly what it is. So he's like, "Oh God, amp myself up," but it's just so funny.
Oh!
And then just like Frankenstein busts through the wall.
Yeah.
It's good because the heroes get away, but we get a good taste of like understanding the agents' power. Agents'
Smiths.
power.
The G-men.
No, that's plural singular. It's plural.
Agents.
Plural possessive.
Oh
the
my
agents' power. Like obviously we've already established that if Morpheus can kick Neo's ass, then and the agents can easily dispatch Morpheus, then obviously we know that these agents have tremendous amount of power.
It feels like unlimited power.
Right.
Much.
They can hack the system to a point where like not even the heroes can.
Well, it's almost not even hacking the system. They are the system.
Yeah. Well, that's true. That's very, very true. Try not to get philosophical.
Well, actually, rewatching the scene, I liked it because Morpheus is able to defeat Neo pretty easily, and then we see him finally take on an agent, and Agent Smith dispatches him like so quickly. Morpheus puts up a decent fight, and you get to see some cool moves, like he does the one hand double kick, and whatnot. But it's all utterly ineffective,
right?
And you can just see Agent Smith is just able to overpower him, and any sort of graceful moves and choreography that Morpheus once had is reduced to him just like defensively trying to block these hits,
right?
And you can see it on his face.
Maybe he's just not good under pressure. Like, it's cool. I'll just stand there.
I don't doubt that Morpheus is a skilled fighter.
Yeah.
I won't doubt anything that you just said before. But Morpheus, he has the technique down, but you can only have so much technique against a fucking wall.
Yeah, Morbius.
Lawrence Fishburne?
Did I said Morbius.
Morbius.
Morpheus. Does like a block. I think hits him once, and then still the agent's pummeling him and all of that, and then the agent just kind of like stops at one point, like gets him to the ground. Leaves to go after the other guys, and then like all the cops rush in and like just basically beat him down, and just like, okay, next scene.
It happens really quick. You'll notice Hugo Weaving and Lawrence Fishburne are fighting. Hugo Weaving's character, Agent Smith, does this move where he actually blocks one of Morpheus's punches by punching it. It happens once, and they were saying that they kept on doing the take over and over again, and he actually does punch his fist with Lawrence Fishburne's fist.
Shit!
And he said he heard he heard something, and then there was swelling like that. That's like bone on bone. That could have easily like fractured.
Yes, of course. I'm like, you guys can't see me right now, but my jaw is like agape.
Because I think
terrible.
the way they shot it is like you were never supposed to really see it, so they could get away with not really making
right. But when
contact.
you're doing thousands and thousands of takes of something, you're bound to mess up something.
Right.
But
So
that's impressive.
They did do it. They unfortunately did make contact, two fists hitting each other, and man, that must have been.
Well,
really
when
bad.
you're
props to them.
Well, when you're not like going full force and you're not expecting to do that move like to completion, you're not like all tensed up, you're not fully committed in that punch, and that's when you get hurt. But like if they were both committed and they were both punching, like there would be no injury. Yeah, maybe there could be an injury, but not really.
But he's an agent. It's okay if you punch Hugo Weaving in the fist.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, you said it before. Right after Morpheus gets his ass handed to him, they don't kill him right off.
No.
You know, like they obviously want to keep him for leverage and everything.
Just submission, yeah.
Right, but
they're trying to get the codes to Zion.
Right, exactly. You know, the machines want some sort of like access to their, all their secrets. But what you said before was that once Agent Smith like leaves the room, he's just like, boys, the cops come in, and all the cops start beating down on this one black man.
You get this great top-down
overhead
overhead shot of all the police officers coming into this tiny room.
And if any of you guys use Facebook, I'm sure this meme has been posted millions and millions of times. This one GIF is like, hey, look, it's the LAPD.
Yeah, right.
One complaint that we had for the last couple episodes was that one distracting thing is that when you see an action scene cut between another scene that's completely unrelated, here it's done very effectively. It's like you see the action, it's done. On to the next thing. It's not like, oh, here's the action, let's cut to something unrelated and then come back to the action.
Right. And when they do cut it, there's the it's for the sake of showing the parallels between the real world and the artificial world.
Yeah, it's either very, very brief, it's not distracting, or it's
It helps the story. It makes people realize like what's really going on.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I want to explain this in a way that it makes sense. That whereas other movies failed in that regard, it's
Right.
like there's a certain rhythm, there's a certain cadence
Yeah.
that these action scenes are working in, and when you cut it and cut the attention, the adrenaline going with something else and completely unrelated, it's distracting. And like when you get back into the scene, you're like, oh, what's happening? I feel like I missed out on something. Here, it doesn't feel like you missed out on anything.
Right. Well, because it's just written well. They wrote it in a way
That's all
like
it takes.
yes, it's action scene like the first action scene, then second action scene, then third action scene. It's not like, hey, how about we have 3 action scenes going on at the same time and then
Right.
cut between them? You just have to do it sequentially.
It's
Yeah.
linear,
Yeah,
for sure. It's not
linearity
stitched.
works here.
Yeah.
It works very well because there's a moment where I'm obviously jumping a little bit ahead, but after the lobby scene, they get up to the rooftop and the main characters take Trinity and Neo take down the cops. But it's so quick, it's so fast, it's barely even like it barely
Doesn't
even
register,
matter.
yeah.
It doesn't even matter because like the cops are so dispensable and they're so expendable. And immediately the Smiths come in. Yeah, obviously it feels like you missed out on the fight between them versus the cops, but it's not needed because you know that
Because
like,
about what's gonna happen next is what you really should be
exactly
focusing
like
on.
the Smiths,
Right.
or not the Smiths, but the agents are the ones you really should care about. Like the cops are so weak and useless.
They're fodder.
Yeah, exactly.
at that
It's like
point.
you don't need to see that part. But like that's the problem with a lot of action movies out there that like have this whole hey, there's action sequences, but you haven't seen it, but and you don't need to see it on screen. But no, as an audience member, I want to see what's happening. Like with the cop sequence, it didn't matter what was happening. So that was a moment where it was used effectively. That we can cut those sequences out.
Right.
You know?
To bring it back a little bit, to start off like the first action scene of this Trinity, no pun intended, or this.
What?
Because 3 action scenes kind of in a row. Oh my god.
Good one, Mark. Good one.
Anyway, so when they're entering the lobby and he's like, oh, all metal objects and the bucket pan, whatever. And then he just opens that trench coat, and then that's like a favorite scene of mine just because it's like, oh, that's new. Like, even though there's guns in this film, and but it mostly focuses up until that point on physical hand-to-hand, running away, building story, and then like there are action scenes, but it's really just hand-to-hand combat. Yeah, there's maybe like a handgun here, maybe like something.
What did you say, Zero, when he opens up his trench coat?
Oh yeah, I was hoping he was naked under there, but he still had all the gun harnesses on. I
Yeah,
thought that
well,
would've been funny.
he has a lot of guns down there, so you know he's packing.
Yes,
so
he
you
was
know it's a
packing heat.
metaphor.
Yes.
It's a metaphor for something.
You can also draw kind of parallels. It's like, oh, well, he's still getting in the rhythm of things. He needs the weapons because he's going into like a crazy situation. Like he's not the one yet. So he needs that, like, those tools, that help to get there.
That's true because in this, oh god, again, I don't want to talk about
I
sequels,
know,
but
I know.
like this is the last moment where Mr. Anderson ever even needs weapons because he can just dispatch anything with his mind.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
So actually, another thing I thought was interesting in the storyboards, this sequence was actually going to have a lot more kung fu and martial arts behind it, and I think that would have detracted a lot because this is mainly like a gun battle.
This is a John Woo send-off. Scene. Like it doesn't need to have kung fu in it. This is really weird for us, a kung fu podcast, to say that. But you know, like every other martial arts choreographed scene in this movie was like the perfect tribute to Hong Kong cinema. But like for this scene, this was a tribute to John Woo movies. You know, like we're talking about
like the slow motion of things,
right,
like everything exploding.
Yeah,
is a very
stylized gun battle.
Yeah, that's very John Woo.
Yeah, we needed that, like, cause like we need representation of that style of gun fu on screen.
Well, I think in the storyboards, like Trinity was throwing knives at one point, and she even had a bolo.
Really?
Yeah, and I can see that just completely being awkward in a
Right,
battle.
yeah.
Like the famous phrase, "You don't bring a knife to a gunfight." And I think it was good that they showed restraint and kept it completely gun-on-gun action.
Right. One of my favorite behind-the-scenes moments, Keanu Reeves is just prepping for... he's getting shot at behind a pillar, and he's supposed to step out, and he's supposed to shoot at everyone else, but he steps on the debris and just falls flat on his face.
Speaking of debris, I'm sure people know this, but I thought it was really interesting and really painstaking for the, I guess, like the production crew. Every time they shot, they needed to rebuild those columns.
Yeah.
Because they just, they get blown up, they get shot away, and anytime they messed up a take or they needed to do a new angle, they needed to rebuild it.
That's what we call commitment.
Yeah.
Good old paper mache.
That's called work right there. I'm glad that they did that, though.
And it just, it goes to show, like, if they did this now, like, that would all be CGI, and your brain knows when it's CGI because it doesn't look real. There's something about it. And just seeing everything explode, it's very visual in your face, but it just adds to the heightened sense of, like, fuck, they're really getting fired on. Yeah. It makes it that much more dire. That,
and I really appreciate that this is a good use of wire fu for this particular scene. Yes. There's one moment where Trinity does a side flip off of the wall, and she was obviously really scared to do it because, real world actor, not trained in any physical combat before, so she's not prepped for this. But it took her a little bit of goading to kind of get her confidence up to perform the stunt. But it looks really good, and she looks very confident in doing the stunts. It looks great cinematically.
Right. Another thing from the storyboards is that scene you're talking about, the wall run, that was all supposed to be one take. At least in the boards. Okay. They tried to do it where it's following her. I think we're seeing the camera's facing her and we're following her. She just flips off the wall, and then she was supposed to land on like a guy, all in one sequence. But I think the way they did it was smart, knowing Carrie-Anne Moss's limitations, so they had to do front shot, back shot, so they can cut it and it looks a little more seamless. Okay.
Well, I'm glad that they didn't go with that route, because what you just described was kind of cartoony. It's like he lands directly on a person.
Yeah,
fine.
I mean, it would have been fine, but based on the limitations of the actress, I think it was perfectly fine what they did.
Basically, with all the outtakes, all the behind the scenes, anything that they wanted to do and they failed to do almost seemed like it was better off not being done. Basically, maybe it was a little too just a little too much in some regard, so it actually worked out pretty well.
This goes a little bit off topic when it comes to the movie particularly, but in terms of Keanu Reeves doing gun battles, because obviously he's done John Wick now, and he ever looks back on doing The Matrix and he looks at this particular scene and he's just does he ever think to himself, this feels so unrealistic? No, because he's trained in real firearms combat now.
But it's heavily stylized for this movie. Like they can warp reality and they can do things a little bit above and beyond. Like they're cartwheeling to pick up guns.
Right.
They're weaving in and out of columns. So I think you have to suspend your disbelief.
Of course.
And just because he's more proficient now with guns doesn't necessarily mean this is a bad movie, and it also doesn't mean that every movie he's gonna do now is gonna be better just because he knows how to use a gun.
No, I'm not saying that at all.
No, I know.
Like, I don't know.
But it's just like a distinction.
I wonder if it keeps Keanu Reeves up at night.
Yeah.
So after the lobby gun fight, we get up to the rooftop. Like I said before, they take care of these cops very easily. Carrie-Anne Moss does this really good 1-2-3 combo that was really cool.
They dispatch the henchmen on the roof, and we get the most infamous bullet time scene.
Yes.
Movie history.
Actually, Mark said it before. They have all the most iconic moments in the movie kind of happen almost back to back.
Yes.
In this sequence of events.
Well, when they're in the helicopter shooting through the window to get Morpheus out.
Just call him M.
Yeah.
Just call him,
God damn it.
Lawrence Fishburne.
Just call him Lawrence.
Fishburne. There we go. All right, Fishburne. So when they get Fishburne out, that and the shots that they're doing with the helicopter, iconic scene or shot rather, and then jumping from the building to the helicopter.
The mid-air bro hug.
Yeah.
Like, love you, bro.
How many times has that been done since that movie?
I don't think that's been.
It's been done a couple of times.
It hasn't been replicated as much as I think.
Maybe not as much, but it's definitely been done. Well, at least on two hands, you can count.
Let's talk about homage and parody when it comes to these sequences of events.
Oh no! Legitimately, like homages. I'm talking about, not parodies.
No, okay, sure, yeah, okay. Even given that, like, obviously, we said earlier on that this movie has a huge influence on other movies, but when we talk about parodies, how many movies have parodied the whole when Neo goes on his back and stuff?
When he's dodging
bullets.
Yeah.
How many times have we seen that?
Oh, well, I was going to say the problem with the parodies, too, is we got an oversaturation of this. Like, everything after this movie was, bullet time, in a lesser state without a budget.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where you get oversaturated with this, it kind of tarnishes the original a little bit. Mm-hmm. So it's nice to see this now, because now that no one does bullet time anymore, it's kind of like a special effect that's a relic of this time period.
Yeah.
It's refreshing to see, because I was like, oh, it's impressive. They really used it. They used CG to enhance it, but they didn't only use CGI to make the effect.
Like, unlike the sequels.
Exactly.
The only instance where we're not entirely sure if it's real bullet time or not, because it's not. I don't remember being in this behind the scenes or anything like that. But there's that moment where they save Morpheus. And Morpheus is about to run out the side of the building, and he's about to jump onto the helicopter, and they're about to save him.
The agents are shooting at him through the other side of the wall.
Yeah,
and one of the bullets hits his leg.
Right. So most of the bullet time rigs that if you can visualize this, is almost a complete circle. It's an actual circle, not a semi-arc or anything like that, not oval. It's a full circle. So this is the first instance where it felt a little bit more
like digital
angular
zoom.
Kind of a way. Like the movement felt a little more artificial. This is one of the instances where it felt like it wasn't as realistic. So we're wondering if this was ever digital, because something about this doesn't feel as authentic as the other scenes. Mm-hmm. Especially,
I think the zoom in to the effect was probably digital, and then, like we mentioned off mic, the last arc of that move where you see the bullet go through the foot and the blood come out.
Yeah.
That looks like it wasn't a full rotation, so they could have made like a smaller rig.
Right, that's
to
true.
Do that effect.
That's true.
You almost have to, because that shot's pretty impossible.
That's true. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of complications with that. It's like there's water, there's like a puddle, that Lawrence Fishburne is running through. There's a sprinkler system. It's complicated.
I just really like the splash of the water from the floor, then when the bullet goes through, you don't even really see the bullet. You just see all the blood mixing with the water.
Yeah, it's
I really like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's pretty
cool.
Like,
point got.
I'll give it props to the Matrix for subverting expectations. Most mentor characters in most movies, especially martial arts movies, they die. They don't survive the movie. Most of the time they do. Like the mentor dies, and then the
I don't know about that.
The student has to live on or carry on their message, which I was expecting obviously
when you first watched this. You expected
no, that's not true. Like when I was young, when I first watched it, I was fucking. I wouldn't say in diapers, but I was young. But
right.
I didn't think that. But as subsequent viewings, I thought that. I was like, I can see Morpheus dying. And I can imagine the story being played out that way. It's a little safer. Well, not safer, but more conventional when it comes to...
Well, it would have been that typical, the student is now the teacher.
Yes, that's exactly how I thought. Because I did grow up with a lot of martial arts movies, so that's usually how it goes when it comes to that kind of...
warranted. But I never really expected that to happen.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
But they could have also thought the same thing that you were thinking of, all these movies, the mentor dies, but it's somehow more powerful when the mentor still lives and then sees the student, the pupil, actually surpass them and then be like, oh shit.
Yeah.
It's more poignant that way, I think.
Yeah, right.
But you're right, almost every other kung fu movie out there, at least half of them have, the master dies.
Yeah. It gives the main character more drive to succeed. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I was like,
his motivation was to save him, and and he actually succeeded. So it was cool that he was able to do that.
That's true. He is the one.
Neo is the one.
As reiterated by the guy on the...
I want to imagine Morpheus talking to his bros or his gals back in Zion. He's like, "Oh, tell me about Neo. Oh my God, he's the one." I can't tell you why, but I just feel it in my heart that he's the
He's
one.
Mr. Right. No, he's the one.
The main characters escape, almost all of them, but Neo gets stranded somehow. He gets kind of cornered by Agent Smith, and we have our final battle of the movie. And this is actually probably, with the exception of Lawrence Fishburne versus Neo. I know you guys are out there like, oh God, they're saying it wrong, but
No, that's his name, Lawrence
yeah, that's
Fishburne.
Lawrence Fishburne.
That's who I grew up with watching.
Like obviously the dojo fight's really awesome, but this is actually that was training. This is real. Well, it's not real, but this is Neo taking all his skills into the field, and this is great. This is a good fight because it shows that Neo is determined. He's showing off all his prowess, but he's still not enough to beat Smith.
Yeah, we get another bullet time sequence of them jumping at each other in midair, trying to see if they could shoot each other in the face. Both people
Right.
are
are
ineffective at it.
I know we established this before. The great thing about this scene, this one shot, is that they're really doing it. Yeah, so they're suspended by wires, and yeah, it's like it looks a little hokey, but it works because
It works for
the actors are doing it.
Yeah, it works because they're bending reality in the movie.
Right.
like
We don't
I've
need to
said many
see
times.
we don't need to see Keanu Reeves pole dancing, like spinning around people in a PS2.
Some people want to see Keanu Reeves pole
cutscene.
dancing around like a million Hugo Weavings.
The great thing that is established without being too explicit is that, the main characters, everyone, the real humans, they learn kung fu. They're very acrobatic. They know these very crazy skills that require a lot of finesse and mobility. But the agents don't even need that. They are so overpowered that their movements are relatively stiff in comparison.
Yeah.
But that's exactly what you want to establish, that they're tanks. Like, yeah, you can have all the...
I was just gonna say, yeah, his movement is like a tank. He's just
Yeah.
very like needs to be done. I'm doing this.
Right. They're very direct in their approach,
Yes,
which
correct.
is exactly... It's a good way of establishing how their style of fighting is different from the main characters.
Right.
All right.
Yeah, like everyone, all the resistance fighters are a little more acrobatic, where the agents are just like one direction.
Right,
Like,
so-
I need to punch you. I need to kick you.
So the main characters are the sword-wielding dudes, and the agents are Indiana Jones pulling out a gun and just shooting the main characters. That's what that is. Because it's essentially you're just fighting a wall. It's like you can have all the skill you want, but if you're just punching brick, it's like you're just hurting your own hand.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what Smith does. As we established before in the previous scene, Smith is obviously an agent, and they're incredibly overpowered.
It was really interesting to see Hugo Weaving just taking all these blows, like to the chest, all these kicks. I was like, man, like they had to rehearse these scenes
Right.
over and over and over again. I'm sure there was padding underneath his suit, but just seeing him taking those hits, I was like, oh wow, you don't see that too much.
Yeah. I think they took a note from Hong Kong cinema. All the dust on them, all this.
I noticed
the
that
real
a little
asbestos.
more, yeah.
Yeah, like that's obviously lifted from like Jackie style movies where it's like those hits will register more to an audience viewer when you actually see like an impact, not just like someone's face crinkling when he gets smacked in the face, but like seeing dust flying off of them. And it's like, oh shit, there's particles in the air. That's awesome. There's that one moment where they're exchanging chops, I guess, karate chops, as you mentioned before.
Yeah.
And there's one moment where Keanu's trying to punch Smith in the face, but he misses, and he does this little
He extends his fingers out.
Exactly. He extends his fingers, and just it's like the funniest thing when Hugo Weaving's like, "Bleh." I don't know. It's just something about that. It's like the little comedy moment within this little fight sequence. I every time I watch the fight, I think that had to be intentionally funny. There's no way that wasn't.
It seems like a nod to older kung fu movies.
Yeah,
where
like
that
dim mock
happens.
related stuff, just like way Just obnoxious martial arts. Let's go with that.
But yeah, even though Neo tries to hold his own, unfortunately, he's still not able to best Agent Smith. And you see some funny special effects when he starts pummeling him against the wall. You see the multiple arms. I really like that though, because you're like I've mentioned so many times, he's bending reality. You're seeing like the multiple fists, like you're seeing how overpowered he is.
And not only that, but the wall itself is like caving in, so it's like a rubber wall, and it's malleable. Yeah.
Yeah, because
just like
so
the world.
Overpowered.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter.
And then it cuts briefly to that scene where and Neo's in his like the real world, and then it jumps back to him getting pummeled again, and that's that nice kind of cut right there. And then the differences between like, oh, okay, like we understand what's happening.
Even if Smith can be killed in one instance, I mean, he can always come back into another body. Yeah. So he's basically undefeatable. He's the the T-1000 of this movie. So he's like basically unstoppable. So Neo gets the best of him, but he still can't escape him. So Neo decides to run away. He gets on foot. He starts running as far as he can, but Smith starts reincarnating himself into other bodies. He starts shifting into other bodies.
These are fun sequences.
Yeah, they're cool. It's cool. Like
where he runs past a person and it does a different cut, and then he's at that person now.
Yeah, exactly.
I thought that was a great way to, not have to do CGI to have him morph. Just use the camera
because that morphing gets a little bit old after you've done it like 3-4 times.
And also budget.
Yes.
Yeah, that too.
But as much as Neo can run away, in the end, as soon as he's about to escape, he gets shot. He's left for dead. He gets shot a couple times, and through the power of love, literally through the power of love, which
there's a kiss involved. Not even on the same plane.
It's necrophilia. She's kissing, making out with a dead body.
Didn't you establish before that like Carrie-Anne Moss is attracted to she knows she'll fall in love with someone who dies?
Yeah, she's a necromancer.
Yeah, she literally is. She literally brings him back to life with the power of love, and now that he's alive again, he is Jesus. He is Cyber Jesus.
Yeah.
The one.
Yeah. He stops the bullets with his. Obviously, you guys know what we're talking about. Everyone has seen this.
Slows
even
them
if you
down,
haven't seen it,
freezes them.
right? Even if you haven't seen the movie, you know what we're talking about.
Bullet foo.
Yeah, like Mr. Anderson stops everything with his mind, and we have a really quick exchange of Smith trying his now the tables are turned. Smith is blowing his wad, trying to.
I was like blowing.
He's literally blowing Keanu Reeves. You guys, this is my fan fiction.
There is a porn parody of The Matrix.
Oh jeez.
I've watched it. It's really. You guys gotta watch it because the bullet time effects are so stupid. I'll have to send you guys copies.
No, send me the actual porno. Right, so now the tables are turned, and
I
now,
know what porno I'm making.
you know what you're jerking off to tonight. Like now Smith is he's obviously unable to take down Keanu because we have so many names for him now. Take down Mr. Anderson because he's way too quick for him. Neo is just blocking everything without even looking.
I like how they changed the frame rate here to make him even faster.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's one really quick edit, like really quick shot of Neo looking at the movements. Like it's a really quick glance. It's just him like just watching everything in slow motion. It's a good establishing shot to show that Neo understands the code. He sees things before they happen. That's really good.
Are you talking about then he like just looks away and he puts the arm
it
behind his back?
is right before
Right
he
before
does
that.
that.
Yeah.
It's a really good shot. Like, and your brain registers it as, hey, like he understands
gets it now.
He gets it exactly, and they don't elaborate on it. There's no person behind the camera being like, oh, he gets it now.
Yeah. Well, they elaborate on it with the visual because now we get a point of view shot and he sees the code now. So he literally sees the writing on the wall.
Right. That's the director's trusting the audience to be smart enough to understand.
Well, actually, no, they don't, because then Morpheus is like, he's the one.
Oh, yeah.
So they don't trust the audience. I will say I don't like how he defeats Agent Smith, but I do have good reasons for this.
Okay.
And it's not because of the kind of dated visuals. You know, you get the CGI. He jumps into him,
Right.
he blows him up.
Cracks him and
cracks him,
explodes,
yeah. The reason I don't like how he kills him is because this is why Agent Smith returns in the sequels and becomes this weird, overpowered virus, because he goes inside of him, and for whatever reason that they don't explain, they're code mixed somehow. And now he has the power of Neo, and that sets off the events of the sequels.
Right.
He's his progenitor now, basically.
So if he never did that, they wouldn't have had a reason to bring back Agent Smith in
The
the
sequels don't exist, remember?
Yeah.
They don't
Right,
exist. It never happened. Yeah, that's basically the
That's
end of the
basically
movie,
it.
actually.
He explodes, and as I've mentioned so many times, you literally get to see his surroundings bend with him, because if you didn't get it, he's bending reality.
Oh, I get it now.
Yeah,
I didn't get it before.
He's the one.
Do we even need to get to a segment where we recommend the movie? I don't think we need to. Like,
No, I think this conversation just explains that it's a really good movie, that we enjoyed it very much.
Right.
It's a classic, and
Yeah.
you should watch it.
It's a well-deserved
Okay,
classic
well,
for many movie milestone reasons.
Right. Let's go through our normal throws of like how we recommend the movie in general. Do we recommend it as a movie? Of course.
Yeah.
All three of us would say that.
Yes.
But do we
Yes.
recommend it as a martial arts movie?
I would say a lot of people don't think it's a martial arts movie. They just think of like, oh, they're doing hand-to-hand combat, and that doesn't make it a martial arts movie. But if you really look at how much martial arts is in it, it's
And also,
it's
well,
a martial arts movie.
It's, I will say, what movie popularized martial arts in Hollywood? You know, like this is the one. This is the golden standard. Like, well, not the golden standard, but this is the one that you think.
If we're talking that turn of the millennium kind of time period, this one, and probably like Crouching Tiger.
yeah, I would
Those
say that.
two.
Right, but this is one that people still think back on. Like, I don't remember the last time someone talked about Crouching Tiger, besides us, because
us,
we're
yeah.
losers.
Looking back, I don't know. It's there's a big mix of martial arts and action. I think it's just one of those movies that has like a little bit of everything and uses it very effectively. I don't know if I could say this is strictly a martial arts movie.
Okay.
It has enough in it though for martial arts fans.
Okay, that's true. Yeah. No, that's a very, very fair point. I if you're into filmmaking at all, if you are even interested in the behind the scenes, the making of movies, if you approach it the way I do, I think it's thoroughly impressive. Like, of course, we will tout the movies that have real martial artists in them performing real choreography. Those movies are great, assuming that everything else works, including editing and sound and lighting and everything. But this is a movie where you don't have real martial artists, but it works. Like, I think that's what makes an effective martial arts movie. If you haven't seen it by now, shame on you, because it's definitely
just watch it.
just
You
watch
yeah,
it.
It's a staple for a reason, and it should be on your to watch list if you haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, we recommend the movie. Just go watch it now. Okay.
Bye.